Hi, my name is Soe, and you're listening to Heartland, a fan podcast from a fan perspective. If I wouldn't be afraid of a copyright claim, I would cue the song from the Cats musical called Memory. But yeah, today we're going to talk about episode 12 of season 16 called Memory. At first, I was kind of nervous going in, especially after seeing the teaser for this episode and then the first look. The whole Amy and Chrissy thing really made me nervous because I felt like this episode was going to be kind of the wrap up for the Finn storyline and, Amy's story around that. So I really wanted them to do that justice. And I was hoping that in some kind of Heartland tradition, it would look worse than it actually ended up being. And I think they did a pretty decent job given the circumstances. I mean, I do feel like it was sort of a messy way to solve all of this, but I don't know, at this point I'm kind of ready to move on because as much as I loved Finn, I don't want his character to be dragged on, especially without him being there. While I was pretty happy with the way things turn out with the storyline, I still felt like Finn has been kind of voiceless during this last couple of episodes. Like I still don't really know what his reaction to Amy calling it quits was or whatever happened, or even, by the end of the episode when Amy was encouraging Christy to kind of go for it, if there was still something going on between them. I get that, and that's all like noble and all, but like, do we know that Finn is actually interested in that? But anyway, I was sort of thinking what Lou was thinking when Amy announced that, okay, this woman came here and she not only brought her horse, but she also said that, she's Finn's fiance. I too was thinking what Lou was thinking, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy that Amy did what she felt was the right thing to do because eventually it really ended up changing Christy's life and Finn's life probably, and then in some way Amy's life as well. And while I hate the setting of like jealous ex and the other woman or whatever, I was happy that they came out of it with good terms because women don't have to fight other women, especially for men. So I did like that that was the ending for that storyline. Also, I was expecting the horse story to be kind of different. Like, I expected the whole thing to be made up so Christy would see what kind of person Amy is. And that's kind of what ended up happening, but not to the extent that I thought it would. While Amy was trying to help Christy and then Lincoln at the same time, I thought maybe it was just Christy's nerves and, the writer problem again. And I guess maybe in some way it was, but I was sort of surprised by the twist that Lincoln was there and caused the accident. So I was pleasantly surprised by that because I did not expect that. I expected the horse story to be very like basic and kind of almost meaningless compared to what else was going on. I felt like it was almost a little bit darker horse storyline compared to some of the other ones they've had. Like I said in the last podcast episode, I feel like knowing that Finn wasn't a liar and that her heart was in the right, it gave Amy permission to actually remove the rings. And I did think that this kind of middle ground of her wearing them on her necklace. It's like a soft lounge for moving forward. And very Amy-like, I would say. I was also a bit surprised by the Lou and Peter storyline. I didn't expect them to have this dramatic storyline, especially given that Amy would have a very kind of emotional storyline. So I expected them to be kind of the comedic side of the episode, but they actually had pretty interesting storyline, in my opinion, because I've been having this feeling that they've sort of been having this honeymoon phase with one another. They've not actually addressed some of the problems they've had over their relationship, both past and present. So it was nice to see that coming out, even if it was kind of intense at times. And I think Rick was a good person to have there because he's basically part of the reason why they're back together, because he was the one who sort of made clear to Lou that obviously her heart is with Peter, and then he's been supportive through his work as well, because Lou has been traveling to Vancouver and he's sort of had to pick up some of that slack and all that. So I think he was kind of the key person to have there. I really like that he forced them basically to talk to each other, even though it didn't go exactly smoothly. But I think Lou and Peter needed that third person to be there to push them forward, to say what they really wanted to say. And I found the scene with Lou walking away, of course it was like emotional, but then Rick following her and taking the one wine glass, then the second wine glass, and then the bottle. It was sort of that the scene needed. But I'm hoping that in the future episodes, we see Lou and Peter talk to each other more, because while it's good that Lou has Rick, the most important thing is to have this communication between Lou and Peter. The ending with them, like, while it's sweet, I think it was pretty easy way to handle this fight. I think they really need to talk about these things and work on it. But that being said, I'm glad that they brought up the adoption process for Georgie when Rick was telling them what was actually going on with him, because that's been sort of something that I've been expecting this season, since we know that Rick and Carl are adopting and Lou has some experience of that. So it was a nice little addition to that storyline. I also really appreciated the little nuances Michelle brought to the scenes. Her tearing up after what Peter said about their different style parenting, and then when Katie came back and she came to give her and Peter a hug. And I just feel like that really showed that these things mean so much to Lou. So I like that little level that Michelle brought to those scenes. As for that Jack, Lisa, Katie storyline, I was kind of not expecting a lot, given the track record they have with Jack and Lisa's story. But of course, deep down, I was hoping that there would be some discussion about, what's been happening, how Lisa feels, and all that. It was kind of a strange choice to have Jack in the background, almost separate from what Lisa and Katie were doing. I don't know. I expected the memory part of Jack's story to be something else. While I know that this difficult dad relationship has been kind of a big deal for Jack these past few seasons, I couldn't help but think, what is this really contributing to Jack's storyline at this point of his arc? So it was a shame that there was not much development with Jack and Lisa in this episode, when there really was potential for there to be. But I did like seeing Lisa and Katie together, and Katie talking to Lisa instead of Jack. We've seen that, but I think Lisa can give a different perspective to what Katie's going through, and not only because she has life experience of her own, she can sort of have this softer approach to the situation because she's not that heavily involved with that. And I did like that she spoke for Lou and made Katie understand what her mom might be possibly thinking or feeling. So I did like that. While there wasn't a lot of going on with Jack in this episode, I did like that because Katie doesn't have that whole horse aspect to connect with a lot of the other characters. Her poem sort of offered that bridge between her and Jack, and then also brought Jack back to his music. which can be kind of therapeutic. Seeing the lyrics of that song, I mean, gosh, that took me back. I used to write songs like that. It just made me cringe thinking back, like, that's exactly how it was. And so while it was sweet, it was also kind of like, how it sort of feels big to you, but maybe a little bit cringy to someone else. Anyway, let's get into your comments. Stephanie said, at first when I saw Katie was going to be crashing G's fishing trip, I was slightly disappointed since we haven't seen a proper trip as just the two of them to the cabin since the earlier seasons. However, I was pleasantly surprised that Lisa had a bigger role this episode with Katie. It was refreshing to see her and Katie bond while fishing and also giving her some advice that didn't come across as overbearing. I also liked that there were a couple of scenes between Jack and Lisa, and how we got to learn a little bit more about Jack's past, along with the fact that it's clear that Jack is still recovering from the accident and needs to take it easy. Rick, Lou, Peter dinner scene was hilarious. Aiden's facial expressions, body language was an absolute brilliant performance. His attempt at couples therapy was perfect. Lou and Rick's friendship has come so far. I'm so grateful she has him to confide in. And on the flip side, Rick can confide in Lou as well. It was nice to hear a bit more about Rick's personal life and to catch a glimpse of the things he's going through. I do wish Peter and Lou actually had more of a conversation about how he's always away working and how Lou is basically a full-time mom and that Peter doesn't feel as involved. I feel like the conclusion they came to was just the tip of the iceberg. They really need to dive into that more, and we as the audience should get to see them work through this and ultimately become stronger as a couple. There were, however, some sweet moments between them that were nice. But again, we need to see them grow more as a couple and work through their issues. Amy and the Mystery Woman, putting Mystery Woman as I can't remember her name at the time I'm writing this. I both liked this storyline but also disliked it. I'm obviously thankful that Finn isn't a cheater, and this lady was just jealous and wanted a way to hurt Amy. But at the same time, I wish that the writers didn't try and make Finn out to be this bad guy in the first place. I understand they wanted a way to add drama, but it still felt like a huge punch to the gut, especially after Robert's passing. I liked how the two of them resolved things and were able to come together and work with Hurt Horse. I did like we got to learn more about the accident and have more insight to what really happened. I'm just hoping now that any mention of Finn can be put to rest and we can move forward with other storylines. I liked how at the end we see Amy taking her wedding rings off and putting them on a necklace chain. It shows she's ready to move forward, but obviously won't ever forget the love she shared with Ty. This episode was so much better than last week's. As always, looking forward to more episodes to come. Then Alberta Dream said, Lisa is indeed becoming more and more a country girl. First selling cattle like a boss, now fishing like a boss. She's definitely hooked. And renovating the fishing cabin, this reminds me of a certain fan fiction. I love it. Felt a bit annoyed by Jack's grumpiness first, but was happy that he at least agreed on the outdoor kitchen. I expected a bit more of Jack's past storyline, to be honest. Love the Lisa Katie talks. She really has this way of finding the right wise words, just like her husband. And I am more than happy that Katie seems to finally find her talent. Eager to find out how this evolves. Oh, and sleeping outside in a tent with broken ribs? I don't know about that. Oh, and I still feel like there is an important cheese to talk missing after the accident. Yeah, so what Alberta Dreams is referring to, in my current fan fiction, Lisa and Jack are moving away from Heartland and they decide to build a house at the fishing cabin lot. So that's what the reference to fan fiction is about. And yeah, I was wondering about that sleeping outside in a tent thing. Like, did he at least have some kind of bed frame thing there, or It just seems like even with my ribs that are not broken, it takes a while for me to, get up from the floor of the tent. So I don't know about Jack getting up like that. Yeah. Then no context, Heartland said. Okay, so in the end, I feel like I'm okay with where they've ended the Finn storyline, though I do wish they would have dragged it out less and not scared me that they were making him out to be an awful for so long. I liked Amy's last scene taking off the rings, but not letting them get too far. It shows a big step in her journey of carrying on after losing Ty. I like the fishing capping storylines and that Katie bonded with and opened up to both Lisa and Jack through it, and that they did leave some space for Jack and Lisa there as well. Like some of the others commenting, I do think that they could have some more Giza resolution regarding Jack's accident. I loved Rick in this episode. Him showing up early, worrying about the adoption process, trying to help Lou and Peter. He added a layer of comedy to the Lou-Peter fighting situation, which I think was sorely needed, so it wouldn't just be like the awful fighting that we got in the earlier seasons before their divorce. I loved him claiming he had to do best friend duties as he took all the wine. LOL. As for the actual Lou-Peter fighting, it scared me for a bit there, but I ended up kind of being okay with it. It shows us a little of them slipping into some old patterns and handling them better than they used to, which is what I've been wanting to confirm their growth. I also like that it was about both of their flaws in parenting, her over-involving herself and him not being there as often, which are both flaws that we are familiar with from them, and not just super one-sided. Then MC Loves Heartland said, "This was an enjoyable episode. Amy's storyline was definitely not what I expected going into it, but I'm glad Christy and Amy were able to become friends in the end and that it was a misunderstanding. I do feel like Amy and Finn need some more solid closure, because I'm not even sure if Finn knows that Amy thought he was lying to her. Even though we know they won't become a couple, I would like them still to be friends and that Amy can make amends with Finn. We might not be able to see him on screen, but a passing comment like Amy saying she talked to him wouldn't hurt. It would also be realistic. I thought the horror story with Lincoln and Christy was really interesting. That ending scene with Amy putting her rings on the necklace was really well done. It showed that she is ready to move forward, but still keeping Ty in her heart. Seeing Amy be sad and upset so many times this episode made me a little sad. I just want her to be happy in her life and her job. I love the fishing tapping scenes. The scenery was absolutely gorgeous. The scenes with Katie and Lisa were really nice. I love how she's like this mother figure to Katie and how Katie feels like she can talk to her when she might not always feel that way about Lou. I love Katie's character so much. I'm loving seeing her grow into who she is as a person. As a bookworm, I love seeing her into reading and writing. I thought we got some hints at the storyline being a glimpse into Jack's past and what happened with Al and Lindy. So because of that, I was expecting flashbacks. That was a little disappointing, but other than that, this storyline was so good. I love seeing Rick be Lou and Peter's personal therapist. It was really funny, but I think it was also needed for them. They really need to learn to communicate better with each other, and I'm glad Rick gave them an extra push. I used to really want Lou and Peter to get marriage counseling slash therapy, but I would have never thought it would come from Rick. It fits his character so well, though. This was a great episode. I enjoyed it. And then they added, I think this is the first episode that Lisa's referred to Katie and maybe Lindy as her great-granddaughter, and I love that for her. Then Victoria said, I guess my expectations are getting the best of me, but other than that, it was an episode to start closing out the season. The resolution to the Amy Finn storyline was handled in a positive way, and glad Finn is actually a good guy in lieu of all the negative direction the storyline was leading us to believe. Regardless, I assumed it would end up the same way with Amy coming to terms with taking off her rings to open up her life to new possibilities, since the emotions she felt with Finn allowed her to have an eye-opening experience. I liked how Amy and Lou were having a sister moment, but enjoyed Amy following her own heart rather than Lou's perspective. Peter is right. Lou is meddling a little too much in her daughter's lives, but being a mother, I can see her point of view too. I don't want any harm done to my children, and trying to stop it before it happens does seem pushy, and they don't actually learn from it leading them away. Life lesson learned. Thanks, Heartland. Rick was his normal, cheerful self, adding some flair to the overdramatic drama between Lou and Peter. I shouldn't have read the synopsis for the future episodes. I can see the foreshadowing during these last few episodes of what's to come. I seriously believe that Michelle's baby will be Rick and Carl's baby in the last episode, and Lou and Peter will renew their vows/remarry. It was nice to finally see Lisa playing a bigger role for once, and now she is lumped in with Jack being named the grandkids GGs. I love that Katie opened up to her. It was much needed. I hate that Lisa is a filler character, though. Her implied storyline seems to help the story along for other characters rather than her own. I'm not sure I like Jack's dad's storyline tracked back up again. I thought we settled all that with the so-called Watch episode in season 15. It was too redundant, but him opening up to Lisa again about his past was really nice to see, and finally the writers allowed her to be around for it again. When I saw the plans for renovations, I was kind of shocked, but I don't think the cabin needs it. The one restroom Heartland Ranch house really needs it. Haha. But it was a cute idea, especially funny when she hinted the nice bathroom. I did hope for some heart-to-heart talks between Jack and Lisa, but I guess that was my expectation, and it never goes the way I hoped. I still haven't seen the closure to the unforeseen circumstances that Jesus supposedly experienced, but hopefully in the next episode. It certainly can't be the end of episode 6 when they came to terms with her traveling and missing each other, can it? Wondering what problems Lisa is going to have with Bo now for Amy to fix to draw her away even more. Blah, blah, blah. Then Dip commented, Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Albert Einstein. I will be kinder to Lou and Peter and just call it wishful thinking on their part, but it was only a matter of time before the same old issues cropped up. The downside of seeing the episode synopsis in advance is that there is no suspense about what change will be made. I'm hoping they will finally build that little house near the Dude Ranch. That idea always made sense to me. They will be very close to Heartland Ranch and Lou's business while still having privacy. Jack has already stated he will be gifting that land to Lou. I was so happy that it was Lisa that Katie confined in at the cabin that I was sitting alone in my living room, applauding my television set like a crazy old woman. Lisa is very understanding and has a light touch, which was also apparent in her dealings with Jack about renovating the cabin. Another great idea. Katie is indeed a talented writer, and it was so sweet of Jack to put her words to music. When happy Katie returned and went up to her room, Lou should have given them each a big hug and said, "Thank you for returning her in better condition that you received her." For a while, I thought they might recast Finn, but now I think this may be the end of Finn's storyline. I wonder if it will ever be revealed whether this was planned all along or adjusted due to Robert's untimely death. I'm okay with where Amy landed emotionally, but disappointed that Jack's festering anger towards Al is not yet addressed. Will it ever be? Is the question. Then HL Horses said, I like this episode for the most part. I'm still disappointed we really didn't see any serious talk with Chisa reflecting over the accident or really any sort of serious scene regarding that, but at least Jack wasn't fully physically healed like I expected. Just doesn't really feel like there was much fallout or consequences of Jack getting hurt, either to him or the family. That being said, I did really enjoy Katie opening up to Lisa and them bonding. I had hoped this was going to happen. While Jack is probably a good person to confide in, I like it when they switched up. Lisa was so cute when trying to convince Katie to go fishing with her, and I love that Jack has made Lisa a fan of fishing over the years, so much so that she can teach Katie. I love seeing Lisa and Katie fishing and how Lisa got Katie to open up about what was wrong, but I did not see her hand getting hooked coming. I think she also helped Katie see Lou a bit differently. I did like the few Jesus scenes we did get, but I thought the Jack and his dad thing was kind of random for this episode. Also love that we got more Lisa backstory no matter how brief it was. When they were talking about memories that the cabin held, I really wanted them to bring up their first trip there in season 1 to bring it full circle. It was also really cute when Lindy hugged Jack and Lisa goodbye and when Lou referred to them as Gigi's, plural, because not sure they've said that before. Now, as for Amy and Christy, I actually did really like their scenes together, and I think it helped both of them heal and move on. A lot of us called her being Jay's sister and them not actually being engaged. I mean, her line of "Did he ever mention me?" seemed really forced, so I kind of thought we all were right when she said that line. I also really liked the sister scenes we got at the beginning of the episode regarding Christy showing up, because that's exactly how I think sisters would act if that happened, especially Lou. I know it wasn't funny, but I did laugh at the horse projection thing in the window when Christy had that flashback because it looked weird. I was not expecting that we were going to get more information about the car crash. The story chemist said, "I think the Amy storyline was well done, and the ending with her taking off her rings shows that Amy is not stuck and knows life must be lived in the here and now and not in the past, a significant breakthrough for her." I think this is the most screen time Lisa has had, a total 11 minutes 50 seconds, and I'm chuffed about that. But how could they not have any Jack and Lisa heartfelt moments about his accident? The opportunity was there. They were outdoors with an outdoor fire pit and alone, but nothing emotional about their relationship, no intimate emotional moments in the 5 minutes, 25 seconds of Jack and Lisa's screen time. Such a wasted opportunity, and I'm pretty sure this is the last time Lisa will be at the cabin, so it's very disappointing. Also, I'm not laughing at, like, I agree with what you're saying, but I just love that you've counted even the seconds because that's dedication. Then they continued, "We've done Jack's dad drinking many a time. Could it not have been about his previous rodeo accidents or about his mom or something? About Lisa? Just to give us a variety and fill in the gaps of his character to add more layers. One plus is they still had Jack suffering the physical after effects of breaking 8 ribs. Still not over how we have no idea how Lisa felt about the accident of the after effects on both of them. I'm glad Katie opened up to Lisa, even if it was out of guilt at injuring her hand a bit. A good episode, but it could have been epic if they did the Lisa and Jack moments with much more emotional layers added for both of them regarding the accident and how it has shaken them and their lesson learned." That's all the comments this week. Thanks again for those, because I know it was a little bit short notice because I had to film this episode a little bit earlier this week as I'm busier later this week. Here's what you're gonna know about the next episode. It's called Striking a Balance, episode 13, airing January 22, and here's what's gonna happen. Amy helps Lisa with Platinum Bow. Tim has a difficult visit with Shane. Katie leads a strike at Maggie's, and Jack reconnects with his country music roots. It sounds like it'll be an interesting episode, and hopefully we'll hear where Tim and Jessica have been, because they were nowhere to be found, and there was no mention of them in this episode. So next week, we'll be back with them and a lot of other characters. Until then, keep your noses clean and your powder dry, as they say. Bye!